Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Circus, Afro circus, Afro circus, Afro, polka dot, Afro.
Really?
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show on a Monday again.
Penultimate Monday before we break up for good. No, for a few weeks for Christmas.
We can break up for good, yeah. It's all over. It's come to an end. Until next year.
Yeah. That was slightly melodramatic.
I know, yeah. But it's a bit of a melodramatic week. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Stuart, full of cold still.
Yeah. I'm so fortunate that colds cannot be transmitted yet across radio and on internet so far, you know.
That's my hobbity name, Stuart, full of cold.
Stuart, full of cold. I
should have kept that for next week, because this week, with us having the cold, if I was okay, I was going to do something from Paddington, sort of like Dewey's Growly kind of thing, and then I was hoping that you would latch onto it. That's like really offensive, but with us having the cold, I'm deciding to nick the hobbity thing this week.
Yeah. But then also because as usual we have to get on with plenty of films coming out, especially this week. We're covering a whole lot of films in cinema section, including these films.
Animated spin-off from the Madagascar series with those damn little penguins in Penguins of Madagascar. A British Santa Claus film from a director of horror who's noted for horror with Get Santa. A very small but dark thriller in Black Sea. St Vincent, a comedy drama. A very, very straightforward drama in men, women and children. And if you could call it horror, The Pyramid.
As well as usual, movie news, look at the UK box office top 10. And then we'll be having a little small break and then come back with the DVD and Blu Ray home release section where we'll be going through not so many films, but still what we're covering.
The smallest collection of action superhero stars in the Expendables 3. Kids action adventure film in The Nut Job, and one hell of a strange movie in The Congress. And
as usual then, we'll round up the show with a look at some upcoming TV movies that we'll recommend to you for the next week. So, before we sort of end up getting into the movies, let's get through some movie news first, starting off with a couple of pieces I've got. First of all, about directors being cast on a few things decided now. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 is going ahead, and they may have found a director, with David Green, the director of Earth to Echo, as being announced as being in talks for the film. Jonathan Lieberson, who directed the first film, will not be able to direct the sequel because he's currently directing a 10-part TV series called Sanara. But do not fret, because Michael Bay is going to be producing again, and Megan Fox and Will Arnett are expected to reprise their roles.
Well, it was sort of like good news hearing that somebody like Jonathan Green, was it? Did you say? I tuned out slightly.
David Green.
David Green, then, in that case. I should listen more often. It's nice to hear that, because he did do pretty well with Earth to Echo. Earth to Echo, I did have sort of like that kids' 80s feel to it, so we'll see what he's like with a bigger budget. And again,
Earth to Echo did have a good use, as much as some of them were ropey a little bit. It did have a good use of live action and special effects.
It is sort of like Michael Bay taking an unknown director again under his wing. Whether it'll work out, it remains to be seen, but I really do hope that he doesn't get his grubby mitts all over it and ruins it, because the first one was pretty tosh, but it wasn't as bad as a lot of people made it out to be.
Yeah, it was pretty watchable. Other directing news, not to do with Turtles, but this time to do with Star Trek, and in particular Star Trek 3, or whatever they're going to end up calling it, because obviously it's Star Trek 3, Star Trek 13, Star Trek whatever it will be after Into Darkness, was going to be directed by Roberto Orci after J.J. Abrams had kind of jumped ship and gone over to Star Wars. The thing is, though, Roberto Orci is no longer going to be directing it. There's no idea yet who is going to be directing it, but fans are looking forward to it potentially being Edgar Wright, who some of you may remember was going to be directing a Marvel film, which would have been... he was directing Ant-Man until he had to leave that for disputed reasons. So he may be making a return to big science fiction in the turn of doing a Star Trek film.
And the other rumour that was going around was Jonathan Frakes, wasn't it?
Jonathan Frakes has been thrown around, I think, as a fan sort of thing, because of... See, if people don't know who he is, Jonathan Frakes is the actor that played Will Riker in Star Trek The Next Generation on television, and then went on to direct the first two standalone Next Generation movies, First Contact and Insurrection. First Contact's absolutely a brilliant film. I absolutely love it. I am a Star Trek fan, but I've seen them all films. But I think First Contact is a brilliant, actually elevated Star Trek film, above the typical kind of thing you have for a TV series to film transition. Insurrection, not so much, but I don't necessarily think that's his fault as a director. I think that's the writing on it wasn't brilliant. But I don't have a problem with him, but I just don't see him being brought into it because of his ties to the original to the series, and the fans may want it. But I do think Edgar Wright's probably a good choice.
Yeah, maybe Jonathan Frakes on sort of like some kind of production role or just advisory kind of role, just to sort of like give it a little bit of a feel of the older Star Treks. Not like a lot, because we don't want that now. We're in a different era. We've got a complete different crew. They decided not to go with taking a crew from the TV series with the first two films, and I'm guessing the third film was going to be the same. It's going to be the same actors, Chris Pine, etc., who's going to be in the next film. Yeah,
because they'll all be tied in on contracts that have them. I think it will have them at least 3 films. Tends to be the thing that the actors are tied into for sort of sequels.
It's nice to see that somebody as passionate about films as Edgar Wright being sort of like the lead touted director to be the one to do the third one, because I'm definitely on board for that, because Edgar Wright adds just so many layers to his films that it's not just one of those movies where you can go in and see once and expect to see everything. You get millions of different nuances. If you watch Shaun of the Dead still now, you can still find little bits and bobs that you might have missed the 5th or 6th time that you've seen the film. So he's a really good director in that, and he's passionate about what he does. And you need somebody, when you're doing a film based on a TV series, especially something that doesn't have the lore attached to it, when you're creating your own characters in a way, you need somebody to be passionate about the project rather than just going in and being sort of like, I'll make this my first film. No offence to Roberto Orci, it's a big task to take when you're going from somebody who's mainly just writing films to directing movies, especially something big like this.
So we don't know what the reason is, and possibly may never know it, but he's not directed anything before, so that may be an issue that the studio possibly had with, basically, because it is Paramount's #1 franchise, isn't it? It's the franchise they own that they want to make sure they get it right. They don't want to risk screwing it up.
Yeah, he dropped out of the Power Rangers movie to become the director of Star Trek 3, so I know that's sort of like a big step up, but maybe he might just go back to the Power Rangers movie, or instead just go, I think I'll direct the VR Troopers spin-off instead.
Okay,
if anybody can remember VR Troopers, you're really, really sad.
I can't.
I can, unfortunately.
Okay, so you're really, really sad by your own admission.
Yes, I am indeed.
Okay. A couple other pieces of news I've got. Again, LinkedIn, because of having some weird way these all linked tonight. Mentioning Edgar Wright and Marvel, where he was going to be directing Ant-Man, or for a while was, and then left it. We've now got official confirmation from Marvel that Benedict Cumberbatch has officially joined Marvel's Doctor Strange as Doctor Strange. He's going to be playing the character who, after a horrific car accident, discovers the world of magic and alternate dimensions. And it's going to be in a movie directed by Scott Derrickson, which is due to be released November 4th, 2016.
It's obvious casting, isn't it? British guy who's able to play bad guys really well, so...
I think it is great casting, but I don't know the comic, but I know from obviously when they announced it, you've seen anything about the character and the look of the character. I really wanted it to be Oscar Isaac because he looked so perfect for the part for me. But I guess Benedict Cumberbatch, you can't really go wrong with Benedict Cumberbatch being cast in anything now. So, well, I guess except for maybe in Star Trek Into Darkness, because there's so many issues with that film, but won't go into that just now.
Plus, with Oscar Isaacs, he would still be slightly busy on Star Wars, because they're still shooting Star Wars, so they're still doing bits and bobs, and they might need for him to come back because he is in the new Star Wars film.
Yeah, well, we'll see exactly what happens with Star Trek. As we said, said that the director is looking for a new director. They're looking for a new director now, which is potentially going to throw things up in the air even more. So, I guess you'll see. Final piece of news for me, just a little quick mention that there has been confirmation out as well of the new Bond film. It will be called Spectre. Sam Mendes is directing again after having directed Skyfall, and amongst the cast has been announced Christoph Waltz will be playing one of the main villains, if not the main villain of the piece. Has not been confirmed yet, but fans have speculated that he might be playing Blofeld, the villain, the lead of the group Spectre, which is obviously where the title of the movie comes from.
Yeah, and I'm just seeing here that Jesper Christiansen confirms that he is on board with the next Bond film, Spectre. So he played... I'm trying to find his character's name. I haven't a clue because I'm not much of a James Bond fan, to be honest, but he was in... I'm guessing he was in the last one. Oh, he played Mr. White in the new film.
Oh, no, he was in... right, okay then. So that's a piece of information I didn't have before, and that means that it will tie in with Quantum of Solace, because he played... Mr. White was in both Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, and then that sort of was left off. So I was wondering if they were going to go back to carry on. Obviously there were threads left in Quantum of Solace. As much as that is a poor, terrible Bond film, it might as well have just been called Casino Royale and a half, because it just added on more to that, which it set up things and there wasn't a lot in it, but I guess they're going to go back to that and carry on that story, which I'm glad about. I'm glad they're not just dropping that, because that's what they did in Skyfall. Skyfall's very much nothing to do with the two other movies. It's a separate thing. So I'm glad about that.
Yeah, they announced the full cast as well, which is alongside Daniel Craig, you'll have Christoph Waltz, which is a bit of obvious casting. He's got a very Bond villain kind of look to him, doesn't he? Yeah,
I think I saw Monica Bellucci as well.
Ralph Fiennes, Naomi Harris, Ben Whishaw, Rory Kinnear, Andrew Scott, who's going to be playing a bad guy as well, Monica Bellucci, like you said, Dave Bautista and Léa Seydoux, who was in the couple of French films of this year.
Well, Dave Bautista, Guardians of the Galaxy, so...
Yeah, and the DP is actually Hoyt van Hoytem, who worked on Interstellar, who was the DP on Interstellar.
DP, for anyone who doesn't know what that is, Director of Photography.
So they're going for somebody who knows how to do scope really well. Yeah. So it could be a very big movie, and it is being shot. It starts shooting actually practically now, to be honest, because they did see it's getting shot at the start of December, and it's going to be shot across like 5 or 6 different countries. So they're going for a bigger scope this time. We'll see. I wasn't a fan of Skyfall that much, but
you weren't. But I like it, and I think it was a nice change of pace for the Bond films, in that it was a lot more personable to Bond than any of the previous films, which to make a big change in a series that's been running for 20 odd films is gutsy, but I think paid off.
My news before I go on to my proper news is that Ryan Reynolds is definitely going to be playing Deadpool in the standalone Deadpool film. So he's been locked in. It was rumoured that he was in final talks with 20th Century Fox, but now he is definitely going to return as Deadpool in the Deadpool film.
I'm up for that. I'm looking forward to that, because I've seen the test footage they did, and it genuinely embodies the character of Deadpool, and looks just bizarrely odd and funny, and what a Deadpool film should be. So as long as they keep up with that, and they have the sort of the stones to carry through with what they should, then I'm down for that.
I'm hoping so, because the people who wrote the script for Deadpool wrote Zombieland. So they got the humour very spot on in Zombieland. It's got that sort of like dry wit. If you look at I forgot his name. I was just saying this to a few people today. When we're trying to remember actors' names, they go completely blank.
Yeah,
so
I'm completely blanking as well.
Yeah, but you know who I mean anyway. But they got the
Jesse Eisenberg. You mean no? Gone.
Yep.
Next.
IMDb it on my brain will explode if I'm not actually trying to remember.
Bill Murray?
No.
Who's looking for the iconic Twinkie? It's Woody Harrelson.
Yes.
God, how could I forget Woody Harrelson? That's torture.
That's really insulting, isn't it?
Yeah, and how can you tell that we're live as well? So... yeah, they got the wit of Woody Harrelson right in Zombieland. So.
Otherwise, you'd have it if it was recorded. It'd be, oh well, it's that guy Woody Harrelson. Yeah, and
yeah, this is why I like record this show live anyway. But on to proper news, where I've got it written down so I can't screw up names or whatever. It's been confirmed
it somehow. Come on,
probably. It's been confirmed that the remake of Stephen King's It will begin shooting in the summer of 2015 with True Detective director Cary Fukunaga, I'm glad I actually wrote that down, to be honest, at the helm. It's unknown who will play the iconic Pennywise the Clown, though.
Okay.
It's going to be split into two films.
Yeah, well, it was 2 parts. Was it 2 or was it 4 parts? I can't remember now. The TV
it was
miniseries
very long.
Version
it was 3 hours long or something like that. I think it was 2 parts.
It was either a 2-part. Oh, I've got a suspicion it was 4 parts. I'm trying to remember because it has been a long time since I saw it.
I think it was only 2.
I mean, it's like the Stand as well. That was made into that was definitely 4 parts, I think, or maybe even more than that.
It was 4.
And so, I mean, I guess they could do it, but it's a question of whether or not are they doing it to pad out things, or would they be better off doing a one-off 3-hour film? Are they doing it just to make more money, or are they doing it because of the fact they genuinely think, right, we need 2 films to tell this story?
I think it's the latter. We need 2 films to tell the story because there is a lot of story to tell. It's Stephen King. The way he writes his books, some of his books are just like tomes. They're huge. It's only his short stories, which are I wouldn't even class them as short stories, to be honest, but a lot of his novels are really big, so that's the reason why we've seen a lot of miniseries based on his novels, his small stuff.
But even, I mean, I guess there's things like The Green Mile, which was The Green Mile released in 6 parts, wasn't it, I think, originally? He released it as 6 smaller books, if I remember rightly. I've never read them. I don't read many books, and I haven't read any Stephen King stuff, but The Green Mile, and then that was made into a film by Frank Darabont into 3 hours, and it was literally 3 hours. So, I mean, can you see The Green Mile as being split into 2 parts, 2 films?
They could easily do that because there's a lot of content with The Green Mile as well. It just depends on how he stretches them, because he's only going to be doing the first one. He's not going to be doing part 2. He hasn't confirmed that he's going to be doing part 2, so he'll only be on board for part 1. But it just depends on if he makes like the first part 2 hours. Will he not give enough content for the last part for the second director to come in and take the helm? Sorry, that is my phone if you heard that in the background.
That's the thing that I don't like as well. I think if you're going to do part of a series where it is going to be part 1 and part 2 or something where it's split up into different parts but it's all one story, I think it should be the same people that make it, the same people that direct it and such, because it's like, it would be like doing a film and then if you change, different directors have different styles the same way as different cameramen and such have different styles. It would be like having a film where you have part 1 played by one actor and part 2 played by another actor. It's not going to be the same because it's not, and the audience would feel the difference. There's a visual style in the way that someone directs things and the way they decide they want to do a camera shot and how they put a lot into their shot, or in some cases, like some directors, they don't, but it's still obviously there's a feel to how it's directed, I think, and that's why you get, people love Christopher Nolan's work because of the way it looks a certain thing, he does a certain thing with it. So if you had someone direct one and then someone else direct the second, there is definitely going to be, at least on a subconscious level, a disconnect, I think.
the continuity might be lost as well, because if you look at David Yates, the way he handled the last 2 Harry Potter films, the continuity was there because he was the one who was handling the Harry Potter films. Yeah, so you need somebody who's like you said, there'll be just a greater disconnect if it is just 2 different directors. So I'm not sure. More news is, this is bad news again for The Crow. It seems that the remake of The Crow is in trouble again after Luke Evans has told Den of Geek that he is no longer playing the lead role in the film. Only recently has a new director been appointed to the film in the form of Corin Hardy, after original director F. Javier Gutierrez dropped out.
I think I saw briefly a bit about this, and he just basically said, I can't wait for it forever, because the continuous delays that it's had, it's not having any much better luck than the original Crow movie, which had a really sad delay and such because of obviously the shooting of Brandon Lee. But it's a shame, and I think it's almost getting to the point now where if they don't get something sorted soon, I think they should scrap it, because the first film, the original film with Brandon Lee, as much as it's not entirely faithful because of things they had to change so they could get a finished film made, it has a timeless quality to it because of that, I think. So I do love The Crow, the film. The original film's brilliant. The second one is not, but the first one is a really, really great classic film, and it's one of those ones that it's stood the test of time. Yeah, sure, it could do with some touch-ups here and there, effects and such, because it's dated that way, but as a film, as a story, it hasn't dated. It's still relevant.
Yeah, you don't want to end off like Old Boy, the remake of Old Boy. That went through development hell, and look how that turned out when it finally got just thrown out there, because I'm guessing the studio was just so sick of what was going on with that movie. They thought, we need to get it out because we're hemorrhaging money, and it didn't do well at the box office at all. They need to look at the state of where it's at now and think to themselves, can we still viably make a decent remake of The Crow? If not, we need to end it because it is just costing us too much money to keep this hanging.
Yeah.
Now, final piece of news is, according to Deadline, Chris Pratt is in talks to join the cast of The Magnificent Seven and will join Denzel Washington. The film, which will be directed by Antoine Fuqua, tells the story of a Mexican villager who enlists the help of the Magnificent Seven to defend his and his village's homes.
I just hope that Anton Fuqua does a better job of this than he does The Equalizer, because I really did not like The Equalizer. I thought it was honestly quite terrible.
I haven't seen it yet. I think it hasn't been released on DVD and Blu Ray. I'm guessing it's early next year for that, so I'll end up having to watch it because of that. I wasn't looking forward to it anyway. It looked a bit bad.
It's just, it was a film that kind of didn't even reference the old material that it came from. It kind of just felt like they'd gone, oh, okay, we'll throw all this out and just have the character's name, and it was a complete betrayal as far as I was concerned of the original series.
Yeah, we'll see how he handles this. Chris Pratt, he's the man of the moment, isn't he? With Guardians of the Galaxy, and obviously he'll be in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and he's got Jurassic World as well, and now The Magnificent Seven. Anything else?
There was something else, isn't there? I can't remember what it was. There's something I'm sure he's coming in soon or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, this is an actor who wasn't even the lead role in any of the comedy films that he was in, and then all of a sudden he's just exploded onto the scene, and well done to him, because he's got that brilliant sarcastic comedy timing to him, and
I think the last thing I saw him in before Guardians of the Galaxy was Delivery Man, and he was supporting Vince Vaughn.
And he was in Movie 43 as well.
Oh, don't remind me. Don't remind me.
I don't think any actor wants to remind themselves of being in that movie.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go on then, since we're out of the news, to box office top 10.
Yeah, but number 10 is The Drop,
which is a perfectly good film. Great acting in it from Tom Hardy, especially. The late great James Gandolfini in this film were really, really great as well. And Numi Rapace is perfectly fine in it, but replaying sort of a role she's done before. But it didn't need to have a cinema release. I think it will find more of an audience on home release and streaming services, and I don't have a problem with it. I'm glad it's made some money, but I think it's basically made money off of it being James Gandolfini's last film.
At number 9 is Mr. Turner,
which I'm really glad has hung around because it is a really good film. It's brilliantly directed, and a great performance by Timothy Spall. The only problem is it's too long, as I said before, and the whole thing of it being, it has these moments where it's overindulgent in some scenes where it could have sorely missing a good bit of trimming here to make it an even better film. Nothing against it for that, because it's a good film, but just honestly, it is one of those films where it's 2.5 hours and you really feel it on your posterior when you get up.
At number 8 is a new entry for Hockney.
I haven't seen about this. You were just talking about this before, because I actually hadn't even seen anything about it at all. So what's this about?
Yeah, Hockney is just a documentary about the artist of David Hockney. So it's ironic that you've got Hockney at 8 and Mr. Turner at number 9. Two films about artists, about big British artists. And this was there was a live showing of this, and then it was put into multiple screens cinema-wise. Only something like 29 screens. And it managed to get in the top 10 by doing that. So there's a passion out there for viewing this kind of stuff. Like we've said in the past, we've had lots of live events in the top 10, and we don't see that trend ending because a lot of cinemas are thinking to themselves, loads of people can't make their way down to places like London to see these live.
Yeah.
So the next best way to see it is in the cinema, where you've got sort of like a live stream of them. And I like that idea. I just need to sort of like see one myself to see what the experience is like.
Yeah, well, I have to say, actually, from being at some of the live ones I've seen before, and was at one just over the weekend as well, and saw The Crucible, which was only on for 2 days. It was on in cinema showings, and it's really, really good thing. It is a live thing, and it's a different, odd thing to see the live performances, because it's not necessarily very cinematic, but it is a performance thing. It's all largely down to the acting and the dialogue, and it kind of harks back to the whole kind of Shakespearean theatre thing of watching sort of just people acting out, not necessarily even with the props or anything. Sometimes it's just, you know, there's not a set, there's just the stage and a bed or a table, and that's it. That's all they have, sort of, is just the set, a very, very, very basic setting, because it's not about the setting and the way it looks or the way it's done. It doesn't have cinematography. It's just a video of a live performance on a stage, and the thing that comes through on that is the performance that's very good. I mean, that in particular, The Crucible, was really good with Richard Armitage.
Yeah, but number 7 is Frozen.
Yeah, heading its way back into the top 10 because of it's coming out for Christmas. There's special release performances of the sing-along version, and I dread this is gonna. I haven't looked yet, but this is going to be in the top 10 in the cinema as well, isn't it?
This is the cinema. You mean the Blu Ray DVD?
DVD, yeah.
Yeah, it is in the Blu Ray and DVD top 10. It is going to be in the cinema top 10, I'm guessing, next week, because cinemas are still having a couple of screenings of Frozen on every day, to be honest. The only other new thing we can see is that there's going to be a Frozen mini or Frozen short shown in front of Cinderella, the live-action version of Cinderella, which gets released next March, called Frozen Fever. So you know, as soon as they announce that a lot of people are going to go see Cinderella just to see this Frozen short.
We'll probably end up getting, not this year, obviously, because it's too late to Christmas, but I'm pretty sure next year we'll have a Toy Story-esque short, 20-minute release of Frozen for Christmas.
Yeah.
It's that kind of a thing they'll do now, because it's just grown into such a big thing.
Just to tie into to last until 2017, which is when Frozen 2 is due out, because Indina Menzel said there is definitely going to be a Frozen 2 and a live show as well. More Frozen. At number 6 is Nativity 3, Dude, Where's My Donkey?
Which we haven't seen, we're not going to see because of the fact that we haven't seen Nativity 1 or 2. It looks terrible. It's getting mixed reviews from people, and it's getting oddly mixed positive things from people that go and see it, but with their kids. So I guess you could say it sounds as if it is entertaining kids, but given what else there is out on offer as we go into the rest of the top 10 and things that are out this week, there's a lot more that you probably would want to see instead of this.
No, there's definitely a lot more there. There is at least 2 live-action films which you definitely need to take your children to see. Well over Nativity 3. Even if Frozen is shown at your cinema, take them to see that. They'll appreciate you more than taking them to see the drivel, from what we hear, is Nativity 3, Dude, Where's My Donkey? As we call it, Dude, What's the Point? And number 5 is Interstellar.
Which, I have to say, I was at the cinema today and I saw a couple of the films that I need to see today. And I saw one, I was really tempted to go and see Interstellar again, even though I've now seen it 3 times already. And it has been the film most recently that has been on my mind the most after having seen it. And little ideas and things in it. And it's got me thinking and wondering. And it is a fantastical science fiction film that's heavily based in science and reality. As much as it's a science fiction piece, it goes by all of the science part of it, and I really, really love it. I'm not necessarily sure it's going to be in my top 10 films. If it is, it will be in the latter half of the top 10 films of the year. But it is. And I don't mean it's badly. It's not amongst Christopher Nolan's best films, but it's a film that does stick with you.
Yeah, I'll fully 100% guarantee this. I'm not going to give away my top 10 because I've already actually sort of practically locked everything down.
I'm still working through mine.
I doubt there is another. And surprisingly, isn't it, that I'm the one to lock down my top 10 films of the year first? But I doubt there's anything that's going to knock any of the films out of the chart. Interstellar doesn't even make my mentions list. So it's even though I did like the film, I didn't like it that much to even put it in my top 20 of the year.
One thing I am hearing about is that people who still haven't seen it, or until this week hadn't seen it, are now starting to be enticed and actually going to see it. And they're coming out, majority of them, as far as I'm aware, and saying that they're loving it.
Yeah, because in my opinion, there are 2 other films in this top 10, the top 10 this week, that I deem better than Interstellar. So that's saying something. And it's not the film at number 4, which is Horrible Bosses 2.
Oh God, no. Where to begin? It's awfully
awful.
Yeah,
awfully awful.
No, the thing is, it is more of the same with the first one, but it then goes and decides that it's going to be more horrible, more gross, and the thing is that it's not even horrible bosses, because the fact of that the main characters are now the bosses, and it's a complete misnomer being called horrible boss. It should have been called horrible staff. It's that first of all, it's the title doesn't make sense. Second of all, it's just the characters are moronically idiotic. I honestly, if I knew these 3 characters, one of them I'd maybe give past. The other 2, I would literally, write something on a board and give them it and say, this is the thing. You're an idiot. You're a fool. They honestly drive me nuts. The characters in it are horrible. Hate them. Horrible, 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 horrible is what it should be called. Not Horrible Bosses 2. Just absolutely plain horrible.
Yeah, no, I sort of quite liked them in the first one. They're just really annoying in this one. The really badly annoying.
Especially Charlie Day's character, which I guess is maybe a good performance from him because he's not bad. Another thing you see him in, but oh God, no, hate it. Just.
And number 3 is Imitation Game,
which is an absolutely fantastic performance from Benedict Cumberbatch and also everyone else in the cast, including. Forgotten her name.
Keira Knightley.
Yes, thank you. I was trying to think who wasn't it. I've completely lost it. Yeah, she gives a really good performance in it as well. So as well does Daniel No, I can't think his name.
Daniel Brühl's not in it.
Not Daniel Brühl. No, Is it Daniel Bright? I can't remember his name. Who was also in Watchmen years ago. I can't think of his name. It'll probably come to me later, but it's a great performance piece from all of the cast in there. And if you haven't seen it, you really do need to see it because it's a strong hitting performance for everyone.
Yeah, this is one of the films in the top 10 that I think is better than Interstellar. So this is one of the. No, this is just in my opinion.
Yeah, everything is subjective to everyone's opinion, but as much as I think it's brilliant, it's because of the fact it's completely different, obviously, than Interstellar. They are very, very different films.
Yeah, I know they are, but I got more out of The Imitation Game than I did out of Interstellar. I liked more of The Imitation Game than I liked more of Interstellar, even though there's a lot of Interstellar. At number 2 is Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1.
Which is perfectly fine. I've only seen it once. I kind of, again, like Interstellar today, I saw a film and I was thinking, I could just go and see Interstellar or see Mockingjay Part 1 again. And because I kind of want to see if I'm being a bit harsh on it, because I like it, but I don't like it as much as I wanted to. I had problems with the whole thing of it being about the whole PR campaign of the war between the other districts and the capital, and I wish there had been more emphasis from what I saw of it on the whole thing of the PR and playing it up, and how the press, in kind of like an allegory of how the press manipulates things and manipulates events to appear positive or negative against what's going on, and, you know, picking a side and such. And it just didn't do that for me. I don't remember at any point thinking that it did that. I just thought it fell very short and kind of played it too safe for my liking on that. And also, again, it being part one, it doesn't really have the payoffs that it should, because they're obviously being left out for part two, which will be next year.
Yeah, there's not enough in here to actually make it into the 2-hour film that there is. It just retreads the same ground over multiple times. There is a few set pieces, one specifically, which is used practically twice in the film to garner exactly the same kind of reaction. And when you watch it for the second time, you think to yourself, you've seen this before. What was the point of showing us this again? We already know what this area looks like, what the devastation of this area is. We don't need to see it second time with exactly the same shot. And it's things like that which is overused in the film, which makes you think it would have been much better if you made this the opening sequence to a full Mockingjay film. Even if it did last an hour, then you would have had a lot more people enjoy the film, because they knew that there was a payoff coming in one film, rather than having to wait a year before you can actually see that payoff. I found the film slightly pointless in its 2-hour run. An hour, fine. 2 hours, no.
And it's still the fact as well that generally as films go on in a series, they tend to be around at the same time or even longer running time as they go. This is actually the shortest of all three films by a good 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And at number one is a new entry for Paddington,
which is completely deserving of being at number one, because it's a fantastic, fun family film, and I don't just mean that lightly. I mean, it's brilliantly acted, not only by all the human actors, but also the CG character of Paddington, that is just perfected with the performance of the voice of Ben Whishaw, and it's the animation of the bear is so perfect. The life in it and the eyes are absolutely fantastic, but it's filled with humour from start to finish. And it's not even meant to be a comedy. It's a family fun film, but it's just hilariously funny from start to finish as well. And it's just so full of everything you need for a family film.
Yeah, because you reviewed this last week, and I've seen it now. I've seen Paddington because I went to the cinema. I decided to trek after I finished work to see it. And I had a horrible day at work, so I wasn't in the nicest mood when I went to see Paddington. So it's probably, maybe it's not the best state to actually go in to see these kind of films, but I was in
it's a good test, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, I was in a really stinking mood. The same kind of mood I was in when I went to see Sunshine on Leith, and I really like Sunshine on Leith. Paddington, however, yeah, I actually really liked it, to be honest. It's one of those films where you find it really difficult to say that you didn't like it, because it just brings a smile to your face in the film itself. Not just a smile, there is proper depth to the characters in this one. You've got the very Cruella de Vil character played by Nicole Kidman in the movie, and she hands it up and with brilliance that she does that. But you've also got not just Paddington himself, who's voiced by Ben Whishaw, Sally Hawkins, and Hugh Bonneville, who play the mother and father in the film. They just have the proper mother and father elements to them, which makes you feel warmth when you actually see them, even though Hugh Bonneville is a bit reluctant with Paddington at first. When he gets round to it, you're sort of like glad that happens. But it's also got some drama to it. It's not just all about the smiles. There is also a few teas in the film, including one scene which made a few little kids in my screen anyway cry. So I think it's a brilliant family film, and they got the release of it perfect. It perfectly suits Christmas. There is a little Christmas element in the movie. So I think it's perfect for Christmas, this film. I really liked it. And this I put higher than Interstellar as well. So that says a lot of things. There's another film coming up that I put slightly higher than Interstellar.
I'll be gladly looking forward to them obviously doing a second film now, I think, as well, and I'll be glad looking forward to that if they can pull off everything they did in this one. and get it right again, because they either got incredibly fluky or they knew what they were doing, in which case good luck to them all with the second one.
They don't need to tinker around very much with the formula at all. They just need to get Ben Whishaw back to do the voice of it, and Sally Hawkins and Hugh Bonneville back as well. So just a different setting. Maybe they go to Peru.
I also like the idea as well, because originally it was going to be, we've heard it was going to be Colin Firth originally. I think we were right to bring in Ben Whishaw, because he does bring a younger voice to the character of Paddington, which suits the age of the character and the bear's supposed to be. So that works, I think, a lot better than Colin Firth would have. Nothing against Colin Firth, but I think that Ben Whishaw was the better option to go for.
Yep.
Okay, on to this week's new releases. We've got plenty to go through, so we're going to go straight into Penguins of Madagascar, which is directed by Eric Darnell and Simon J. Smith. It is obviously a continuation or spin-off of the Madagascar animations. We've had 3 of them so far, with the animals that escaped from the New York Zoo and then went to Africa and then end up finding themselves running a circus. The penguins have been in sort of an integral part of all that, with the 4 of them, Skipper, Kowalski, Private and Rico, all sort of being in a sort of a troop of their own. They kind of have a little elite agent sort of secrecy sort of thing between them, and this is a continuation of just them on their own. This time you have them as sort of a group of penguins that are kidnapped by a sort of maniacal octopus called Dave, voiced by John Malkovich, who is got this sort of this plan of this Medusa chemical he's created, which he's going to use on penguins to turn them all into monsters. They, though, manage to escape and then are rescued by a group called the North Wind, a sort of secret society of animals that are sort of kind of like a superhero group, you know, kind of like the Thunderbirds sort of thing, led by their leader, whose name is Classified, voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch. Here's a clip.
What you, of course, could not know is that Dr. Brine's laboratory in Venice is secretly developing a doomsday weapon called the Medusa Serum.
Ah, but what you don't know is that Dirk, Dave, won't be using his bazooka serum, Medusa Serum, on anybody.
That part is accurate.
Show him, Rico.
You stole the Medusa Serum?
Well, stole the serum, saved the day, did your job for you. Call it what you will. Debbie.
Dave.
He hacked into our system.
Where's the sound?
Dave.
I can't.
Your microphone, it's not on.
Click on the button with the picture of the microphone.
Every time a villain calls in, this happens.
Hello?
Well, now we can
So
hear
annoying.
you, but we cannot see you.
Every time.
That's like talking to my parents.
Always
How about now?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
yes.
we've got you. That's
Excellent.
fantastic.
Now, where was I? Greetings, North Wind. I see you've met my old zoo mates.
We were never mates. There was no mating.
So you have this whole thing of the penguins that were kind of like, in a similar way to Despicable Me, they are like the minions of the Madagascar thing, and when the minions of sort of the funny background characters, they were always the ones that, as far as I was concerned, the majority of the time got the bigger laughs, because they're just so bizarre and stupid, but the humour is there in their mannerisms, their behaviour, and the little things they do. All of that is present in this, so it works as a comedy, as a family thing, as a fun thing, as a kids thing. It genuinely does surprisingly work on those levels. It's not any sort of anytime groan-inducing, even though there are jokes in there which there is in particular a ongoing gag all the way through it of Dave's henchmen are all named certain names and things like, to give you an idea of them, he's like, Helen, hunt them down, and taking the names of stars, and that's the way it works, isn't it? It's an ongoing gag, and it should be really groan-inducing, but it's not. It's kind of just, it makes you giggle. There are other jokes as well that make you genuinely laugh, and there's things in there that are stupid and bizarre, and it is kind of unbelievable and ridiculous, but if you've seen the Madagascar films, you know that kind of level of stupidity and humour that there's going to be in there, and so you have that expectation set for you. You should know what to expect with this kind of film. So it's not absolutely a fantastic, amazing, but it is sort of above average animation. It is DreamWorks doing their good animation they do and carrying on with it. It has moments in it that genuinely made me crack up, and some nice ideas that are jokes in there, things that are hilarious because they're not necessarily adult jokes, but things that adults will get that kids will just be like, oh, that's funny, and laugh at it, but adults will find there's a reference to something in there that they'll know that the kids won't have a clue. But it's not a thing that it's going to be, kids will go, huh, what? It's a thing that kids will be laughing at it, but they'll just go, oh, that's funny. You'll go, oh, that's funny because, that sort of thing. So I liked it. I really, really liked it, and I had fun with it. I was not sure what to expect, of whether or not they were going to do that, or if they were going to just dumb it down and be stupid with it, and they didn't. They had fun with it, but they kept the humour in there at a level that both kids and adults could enjoy it. And surprisingly as well, Ken Jeong is in it and doesn't annoy.
Sort of like on a roll, isn't it? Because the last Madagascar film, after the lacklustre Back to Africa, which was the second film, the third film was fantastic. It just had brilliant animation, had humour, had depth, had warmth, had everything that you wouldn't expect a Madagascar film to have. So I'm guessing this obviously won't have the warmth of that, but I'm guessing it still follows the same kind of blueprint as the last Madagascar film.
Well, not really, actually. It's a different kind of thing because it's following the penguins and their own thing, and it's the whole thing of them being... They're kind of like a little military group, and they do things. There is some great sort of action set pieces in it. There's a genuinely fun chase through Venice when the penguins are doing stupid things, like they're on a gondola, and each of the penguins is using an oar as they're sort of rowing through the city, and they're being chased by little squids that are going after the henchmen, and it's ridiculous and far-fetched, but it's that kind of a thing that they never necessarily did that in Madagascar. They did some things a bit like that with the car chase they had in the last one, but they take it to another level in this of kind of stupidity. But because it's the penguins doing it, you kind of go, you know what, it's stupid, but I don't care.
Oh well, sticking with the children's film thing, we have Get Santa now, directed by an unusual director in the form of Christopher Smith. Now, if you don't know who Christopher Smith is, he directs horror films. Mainly things like Severance, which is Danny Dyer's best film, Black Death, Triangle, Creep. So he doesn't direct fluffy kids' movies, and he was approached by Ridley Scott, who's got a production credit on this, to direct this, because he was originally going to direct it himself, but then he thought, with it being small, we'll get somebody else in, and he instantly went to Christopher Smith, and Smith said, yeah, why not? So it centres around a 9-year-old boy called Tom, who's played by Kit Connor, and he lives with his mother and his mother's boyfriend because his father has just got out of prison. His father's played by Rafe Spall, who plays Steve. And one night, Tom hears a noise in his garden. He goes to investigate, and he discovers Santa Claus, who's brilliantly played by Jim Broadbent, in his garden's shed. And he sees that he's crash-landed his sleigh on Earth. His reindeers have gone and abandoned him somehow, and he needs to be able to find them. Tom decides to call his father. His father comes, and obviously he's thinking the bad thing, and so he tells Santa to go away. And so Santa ends up going away and tries to find his reindeers. He ends up at Battersea's dog home, where his reindeers are kept in a pen, and on trying to rescue them, he gets arrested and thrown into prison. And so he realises that he needs to get out of prison to save Christmas. So he enlists the help of both Tom and the reluctant Steve at first to look for his reindeers, specifically Dancer, along with his slayer to try and rescue him in prison. However, for Santa, he needs to try and have a different demeanour in prison. Here's a clip.
So as we speak, Steve and his son Tom are rescuing my head reindeer Dasher, who will then lead them to my new magic sleigh. They will then be able to fly in and spring me from prison.
Well, my first advice is don't tell anyone about this. Yeah, not in here.
Okay.
In fact, I think it might be better if we create a whole new backstory for you. You know, one where you won't end up in a psychiatric unit.
You don't think they'll believe me?
I'm positive they won't. So, instead of Santa Claus, let's pretend your name's, I don't know, something like Mad Jimmy Claus. Yeah, veteran safecracker, bank robber, all-round bad guy.
Mad Jimmy Claus.
Yeah, so like it.
I think it's horrible.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. Show me your gangster face.
Why not?
Your mean face. Huh? If you're gonna be mad Jimmy Claus, you gotta be
Bad.
You know, not mad crazy, just mean.
Mean.
No, mean.
Mean.
Don't ever do that again.
So in that clip there, you heard Stephen Graham, who's trying to help Santa, give him a different personality, and so he has to survive in prison while Steve and Tom are trying to discover find his slayer. However, unfortunately for Steve, with him just getting out of prison, he's on parole, and he's got his parole officer constantly on his back, so he has to try and battle against that. He has to try and find the reindeers, and he has to also try and convince his son, and his son has to try and convince him. Now, if you look at the trailer for Get Santa, it looks really bad. It looks like one of those cheesy, horrible Nativity 3 Dude Where's My Donkey kind of movies. The movies that make you really cringe. When you go to see kids' animated films or kids' films in the cinema, you normally get these movies attached to it. And that was the kind of reaction that I had when I first saw the trailer of it. And when I saw that Christopher Smith's name was attached to it, I was thinking, what has he done? He's gone and ruined his directing career here, because he's just merely known for horrors, and I've liked every single one of his films, and it's not waiting for him to slip up, but he might have slipped up with Get Santa, so has he? The answer is no, he hasn't slipped up with Get Santa, because Get Santa, along with Paddington, would make the absolute perfect double bill Christmas movies for families. If you're taking your kids to the cinema for a Christmas treat, go to both see Paddington and Get Santa, because Get Santa has a lot of humour in it, brilliantly from Jim Broadbent and Stephen Graham in prison. But it has, again, that warmth that these Christmas movies really do need, because you need to really feel sorry for Steve. Even though he's been in prison, he was the getaway driver in the crime that was committed. You want him to be out of prison with his son, and you want him to believe in Christmas. And sort of like, it is that Grinch moment where your heart starts to grow bigger and bigger and bigger the more you watch the film. It's like being in the most comfortable, warm room you can possibly be in with your family at Christmas, sitting down and watching movies like Home Alone for the first time, or these kind of Christmas adventure films that we've seen very few in the last 10 to 15 years. Because I remember going to the cinema with a big group of my family to see Home Alone 2. And coming out of that cinema, it was one of the best Christmas experiences I had. This is sort of like reminiscent of that kind of feel. Families will walk out of the cinema and ask their kids, did you enjoy the movie? And then take them for something to eat and talk about the film, how much they thought this joke where there's a farting reindeer is really funny, or how this thing about a Santa Claus looking like a gangster is really funny. It never talks down to kids. It is a U-rated film, and surprisingly enough, I would have actually put it as a PG alongside Paddington, because there is a few little bits and bobs which I think it deserves the PG rather than you. But as a kids' film, it is, and a Christmas film, it can make any Scrooge just like feel really warm and cuddly inside. I really liked it.
I'm surprised by that. I was expecting you to come out of it absolutely hating it.
No, I wanted to hate it. That's the problem. I had these preconceptions of going into it thinking this is awful. This is going to be really bad. And I came out of it and thought, I was so wrong. It's actually the most wrong I've been on a film this year. Because I have had the ideas when going into some films and thinking this is going to be bad, and came out of it and thought, this is not as bad as I thought. This is completely different to what I thought it would be. I'm glad I enjoyed it, because I hate Christmas. I'm not a Christmas person. But this is sort of like opened my eyes a little bit and thinking to myself, I should stop being a grouch and just enjoy the season for what it is.
Stop being a Scrooge, yeah.
Yeah, no, well, I'm not a Scrooge. I buy for a lot of people apart from myself, but it's such an enjoyable, happy movie. You can't not like it. And anybody who doesn't like it, then I'm going to smack them across the head.
Okay.
Personally.
Nice. Yeah. Okay.
I will hunt you down and kidnap your daughter. Why not? Go all taken on them.
Oh, no.
Opposite to taken. Yeah. I can't do the growly voice because I would kill my voice now.
Okay, I'll go on to Black Sea, which is directed by Kevin MacDonald. It is a movie which has Jude Law front and centre as the character of Robinson, a man who at the start of the film he's been working in a shipyard and under a company. He is laid off, and having been on a contract means he gets no pension. He gets given a sort of a little severance package, which is pretty much next to nothing. Finds himself and a whole bunch of other people he knows in a situation where they're all in the sort of laid off, no money, nothing sort of coming in, no prospects. And so he decides that he's going to do is put together a crew and sees about looking into something that one of his other friends left him information about, a old Nazi U-boat that was discovered at the bottom of the ocean somewhere, which has reportedly got a stash of Nazi gold on there. So he gets the crew together of several people that he knows and a group of people, Russian people, together because it's a Russian submarine that they get, and all take them all there under the sort of the aspiration of they're all going to go there, they're all going to get an equal share of this, and they get down there to the bottom. Once they all sort of get down there, then they're all sort of all these sort of experienced sort of sailors along with a younger sort of inexperienced boy who's sort of brought on to fill in the role that someone else who's no longer able to join them, and they get down there, and obviously people being people in the sort of the situation under pressure and things, people sort of start ending up realising, you know, what happens if there's sort of a crew here of 12 people, what happens then if, you know, there were 11 and people were to then get a bigger part of the share, resulting at one point in them actually crashing and hitting bottom, being stuck on the bottom with a damaged part of their ship and unable to get out of there. Here's a clip.
We anywhere from here to here.
Which means we are on one of these two ridges or we'd be crushed, right? If we're on this ridge, we must be right next to the U-boat now. This submarine was based on the U-boat design.
So if we find a U-boat, we get in there and we take the drive shaft.
Been in the water for 70 years. Useless now.
No, the Black Sea's anoxic at depth. No oxygen. No decay. There's perfectly preserved Roman galleons out there.
So obviously the crew have to sort of work together, but still in the situation and the whole thing of, you know, men and greed and what happens and such. Do you think they'll get all out and they'll get out alive and that will happen? Do you think that'll happen? Well, that's a question. So here's the thing with it. It's a film which it plays very well on things like fear of, you know, tight spaces, and also not only the way that affects the crew, but also the way that comes across on the screen. It's shot in such a way, because of the fact that they actually did film on board a submarine. They didn't make a set, they didn't build it. They were apparently going to do that and then couldn't, or found it was going to cost too much. So luckily found there was a submarine they can get, because it was a small film, and they managed to do a lot with it because of that. It's really, really claustrophobic in parts, and that really helps to make the atmosphere, not only for the characters but also for the audience, feel that way as well. It's very nicely shot, it's very well performed as well, even though if you heard in that clip there, Jude Law is doing a Scottish accent which isn't necessarily brilliant, but it's passable and it works okay. It's not the best accent, but I didn't have a problem with it. There is this whole thing of, you have in the crew, you have Scoot McNairy is a man who works for the man who's financing all this for them, and he gets sent along even though he doesn't want to go, so he doesn't want to be there. You have the character played by Ben Mendelsohn, who's a kind of a bit of a loose wire and always sort of manipulating things and, you know, speaking in everyone's ears and stuff. And then you have the whole thing of the Russian crew there, who some of them don't even speak English. So there's the whole thing of the two sort of sides of the crew that having to work together, yet they can't speak to each other, and so, you know, there's that tensions that rise and such there. So it's one of these things where you get a group of people together in a situation, and then you throw a monkey spanner in a wrench, and that's it, and people have to come up with things, and you see what people are made of. So that's the thing that's really good about it, is that it has these characters, most of which are interesting, or some of them necessarily aren't, but that doesn't matter because they're not around that much. And I was really, honestly, quite gripped by it, quite into it. At no point did I take out of it, get out of it and go, you know, I'm getting bored in this, I'm getting lost. It doesn't at any point sort of fall apart. It doesn't seem to have a problem, and I was quite consistently impressed from start to finish. It's not quite 2 hours long, it's just under that, but its runtime, it feels perfectly fine for what it is. It doesn't feel too long, doesn't feel too short. It feels just right, and I was honestly quite pleased with it and enjoyed it from start to finish.
Right, because we've actually kept people here long enough, we'll move straight on then to St Vincent, because we've still got 3 films, including St Vincent, to do. So St Vincent is directed by Theodore Melfi, directorial debut in this case, and it stars Bill Murray. Bill Murray picks and chooses his roles. A lot of people were hoping that he would pick and choose Ghostbusters 3, but he's decided to shy away from that, and he's decided to do this film instead. And in the film, he plays the title character of Vincent, who's an old Vietnam veteran, and he lives on his own in a house with his white cat, which looks a lot like Blofeld's cat from the James Bond series. And so he's a bitter person. He drinks a lot. He has no job. He has a gambling problem as well, a really bad gambling problem, in the fact that he owes the people who own the dog track a lot of money. And so he's, like I said, he's a very bitter old man. One day, this new people move in next door. The mother, played by Melissa McCarthy, and the son, Oliver, played by Jaden Lieberher. They move in and they crash into his tree and crash into the fence, and obviously he's really angered about it. And the son, Oliver, he's struggling in school when he's getting put into this new school, and when he comes back home one day, he finds out that his mother's not there, and so he has to be put under the guise of Vincent. And Vincent's reluctant at first, but he decides to contact his mother, saying, I look after him, but I'm going to have to be paid. I'm going to have to be his babysitter. And slowly he starts to come around to Oliver, and they start to become really good friends, and he offers his services to his mother-to-be. He's permanent babysitter. He's a clip.
How come you don't have anyone to watch this kid after school?
He just moved in.
Where's the father?
We met in college, and it turns out that he had been seeing
No need
someone.
to tell it then. You gonna pay for my fence?
Yeah, yes.
And my tree?
I was going to. I'm not sure how I can pay for a branch.
Everything has a price. You're an adult. You should know that.
All right, let me know.
I can watch the kid after school. A few hours. Same price. I can do $11 an hour. You pay the snacks. Your kid ate my last can of sardines.
Really?
Now we learn that Vincent has been sort of like seeing this exotic dancer in the form of Naomi Watts, who's got a really strange Russian accent, and so we discover that she is pregnant with maybe Vincent's child, and the bond starts to properly happen with Oliver, and Oliver gets to know her. And however, the film decides to take a different turn, going from its sarcastic quips in the first 45 minutes to being more like a drama, where an incident happens which changes the outlook on Vincent's life for a second time. And that's the problem with the film. The problem with the film is how it switches from being a comedy, a wit-assisted comedy, with brilliantly played by Bill Murray in the first half of the film, to being a drama. It just instantly changes tones on a click of a finger, because it introduces an element of the movie which you think to yourself, that's forced. And you can see that it's forced just to try and change the tone of the film. Now, we've been harking on about Melissa McCarthy being in a role where she plays it straight-laced, and she's not the comedy element of this movie. She is in a drama part. She doesn't get any comedy moments in the movie at all, and she does handle a character really well. There are times where you might expect her to burst out with a very witty one line, or the kind of stuff that she's done in the past in films like The Heat and Bridesmaids, but she never does that. And so she's reeled herself back a little bit. There is an emotional scene in the film which involves her character, and she handles it pretty well. I think the star of the film itself, because he's proper throughout, he stays in character throughout, is Jaden Lieberher, who plays Oliver. Oliver, I think, is the strongest character out of them all, because he has to come to terms with what happens with Vincent, and then he has to sort of like live with his mother, who's finding it troubling to keep her job but also look after her son, and then also just bring them both together in a way to see that, this Vincent is good and he's not the bad character you might think that he is. So it's just a strange movie. It works sometimes, but then it decides to ruin it by forcing you to believe in the drama elements of the film, and so it's average for what it is, but it could have been better if the director was brave enough to try and introduce the drama elements at the right time.
Okay, my last film for the cinema section is Men, Women and Children. It is directed by Jason Reitman, who last was recently as well in a film, directing a film here with Draft Day a little while ago with Kevin Costner. In fact, I think it was only 3 or 4 weeks ago. And this is a very different film from that. This is a film that's a drama centering around a whole host of different characters, a whole group of people that are kind of connected with each other in certain ways. Some of them are all sort of younger teenagers at school, some of them are the adults' parents of them. You have amongst them all these people. Adam Sandler is in the film playing a father and a husband in a family where he's kind of using at one point it's explained very early on by a voiceover by Emma Thompson that things are not necessarily going well with his marriage. He ends up using the internet a lot to look at adult sites for certain reasons, and ends up using his son's PC, using the same to access looking at the same sort of things his son's been looking at. You have the whole thing of Jennifer Garner playing a parent of another child, of a daughter, who she's overprotective, obsessively so that she monitors all her internet connections, all her phones, all her chats, all the people she contacts with. And you also have then another family with the teen son played by Ansel Elgort, who has recently quit the football team after his mother left him and his father for another man, and has kind of just dropped them out of her life altogether. He's kind of spiraled down into this thing of not really caring, not being interested in things, and he ends up sort of connecting with Jennifer Garner's character's daughter, while still being a bit upset, and ends up at one point having a fight which gets him reported and taken to sort of counselling in school. Here's a clip.
So what do you want to know?
What's important in your life right now?
I play Guild Wars.
Is that a Nintendo game?
No, it's an MMORPG. It's a role-playing game online. You play with like millions of other players.
And the people you play this with, they're your friends from school?
Oh, no. I mean, they're just my friends from the game. Like, I've never actually met them in RL.
RL?
RL, in real life.
Do you have friends in RL?
No. I used to have a lot, but once I stopped playing football, I sort of lost most of them. There's a girl, though.
Oh, nice. Is she in RL?
Yeah.
So you have this whole thing of all these groups. There's also some other ones as well, which is to do with a woman who is kind of almost kind of prostituting her daughter out on the net in sexy photographs and such, and have a website and such. And it's all about these people and their connection with the internet, and largely to do with sort of sex and the internet, and how they all sort of access things to do with sex and everything through, be it each other through the web, or you have people having affairs and such that meet up with people on the web and that kind of thing. And the problem is with it, it's kind of touching on slightly the subject that there was done a lot better earlier in the year in the indie film Don John, that was directed by and starred I forget his name, damn it, what is it with us and names tonight?
I know.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That it was written and directed by him. That was all about a guy and his obsession with porn websites and the internet. This kind of touched on that, but more from a subtle thing. And the thing is that it doesn't kind of want to get its hands dirty in that way like Don John did. It also has this thing of that it has far too many characters in it. It's trying to service far too many people and too many storylines and everything, and try and be a drama that it's trying to be kind of like the film Crash, not the David Cronenberg one, but the other one, the Paul Haggis one. I think it was Paul Haggis. I might be wrong on that, but the drama that was in that had everyone all these different characters and they were all connected in some way. It's kind of trying to be that, but it's too much on the fence. It doesn't have the guts to be one way or the other about things. It's trying to have its cake and eat it. It's trying to do everything it can and yet still not do anything too much. And that's a problem with it, first of all. Second of all, it's 2 hours long. It's 2 hours long, and yet it doesn't really have a third act. It's kind of like a 2-act film because it doesn't have an ending. It gets so far and then finishes, but it's as part of the whole thing of not having enough to carry through with its conviction of the conviction of what it wants to do, and say, here's the internet, it's all about this, but all people are using it for this, and this, but then we're going to leave it and not go and say, this happens because of this happens because it doesn't. It just leaves it and then that's it. It doesn't have an ending. It doesn't finish. It doesn't say, well, this, these people you saw for the last 2 hours, you've been watching them, had this happen. There's a little bit of a payoff at the end with one of the characters in particular, but all the others. And the thing is, that one character, as much as it gets sort of equal screen time as everyone else, there's no main character. So it's a mess because of the fact of it doesn't finish. It doesn't get to where it wants to go. It kind of chickens out and goes, well, we've gone so far, we'll just stop it now and tell you this. And that is one thing I really, really hate about it, because as much as you've got Adam Sandler in there in particular, Jennifer Garner, Ansel Elgort, you've got a whole bunch of other people. Emma Thompson, I don't know what she's doing in there in the voiceover. I honestly don't get how and why she's in there, but all the people in it, the whole cast, they're really, really good performances. And Adam Sandler is actually on par with his performance in Punch Drunk Love. He's a serious performance in this film. It's not a comedy, terrible performance. It's a good performance. It's okay. And that's the thing that's really annoying about it, because I literally was watching it, I got to the end, instantly I saw it today in a cinema that was dead empty, and I mean dead empty because of the fact that I was the only person sitting in the whole screen, and it honestly got to the end, I was kind of like, what, that's it? You should have done more. What? And considering I'd already sat through 2 hours, I would have gladly sat through another half hour if it had just given me a few bloody endings at least. I don't mean bloody as in graphic, I mean as in payoffs. Because it just didn't. It just ended, and that was what's really annoying about it.
Yeah, we'll just end it there. I had a couple of questions, but Brand, please, no more.
Ask them, because this is by far and away, this is actually the most interesting film I've seen in quite a while, but it's just so annoying.
Okay, then let me ask them. All I was wondering is, because the problem with these multi-stranded films, they're not even portmanteau movies where it's different stories and it has a sort of like a bit which ties them all together. These are films that's supposed to be interconnected with each other. Is there any section of these ones which you look at it and think, and that's probably strong enough for it to be on its own, or do they all suffer from exactly the same problem, that they're maybe, from what you see, and not fleshed out properly enough? They don't have the payoff that maybe like one element deserves.
It doesn't have payoff because it doesn't have that scene. It's missing that scene where everyone comes together. You have the whole thing. The way they're connected is you have sort of the couple who are they're both looking at having affairs separately. Who their son is then having a relationship with this girl who's the one who's being pimped out by her mother on the internet, who ends up actually then dating this guy who's been dumped by his wife, whose son is then dating the girl who's being looked after by Jennifer Garner's character, and it's this little intricate thing that they're all connected through each other, but not to each other. They're all connected to just one person, like a chain, and yet there's no point that any of them kind of reaches a conclusion, except for one of them, I'd say, towards the end of it, which I won't say what happens. But all the others, you're kind of like going, well, you had 10 characters and only one of them gets any kind of a payoff. What about the other 9? I want to see what happens to the other 9 because of what happened to this one. And you just don't get that. You literally get to something happens to this one of them, and then it ends, and you kind of left off thinking, well, I sat through 2 hours all for setup for that to happen, and then nothing happened.
Right, on to the final film then, The Pyramid, directed by Gregory Levasseur, who was a writer on a lot of Alexander Aja's films, including things like High Tension and Maniac and Hills of Eyes and Mirrors and P2. So he's worked with Alexander Aja before, and Aja is a producer on the film. It's a very simple premise. It centers around a group of archaeologists who've managed to uncover the only three-sided pyramid. It's a pyramid that they believe dates back before any of the pyramids of Giza that has actually been built. Because if you're into Egyptology or anything like that, you know that all pyramids have four sides. So it's very strange to discover a three-sided pyramid. And they decide to send in this drone robot, which is normally used on on Mars or on the moon when they're trying to discover anything on the moon and Mars. And so they decide to send it in, and the robot is sort of like destroyed in a way. So the archaeologists think that it's a brilliant idea for them to go and investigate to see what destroyed the robot. So they enter the pyramid, and you can probably guess where this is going. They get locked inside of the pyramid, and there are some very strange little gribblies inside the pyramid trying to kill them. Here's a clip.
My name is Dr. Miles Holden, and I was a professor at Princeton University. I am trapped in the excavation site with my daughter, Dr. Nora Holden, and cameraman Terry Fitzsimmons. And we need help. This pyramid, unlike any other structure I've ever encountered, seems to have been built with the express purpose of keeping whatever is inside from escaping. If you come down here, bring guns.
And so I can tell you what the little gribblies are. There are little sort of like sphinx cats. Now, again, if you know your Egyptian stuff, sphinx cats get buried with anybody who's high up in not in the chain, but who's really high up. So maybe it's gods or kings. When they die, they get buried with things like weapons. Sometimes some of their slaves, the people who've worked with them, and their sphinx cats, because it's believed that sphinx cats are able to transcend their bodies over to the afterlife really well. And there is something that ties into this story which involves something else regarding Egyptology, and it's balmy. When you discover the other thing inside the film itself, it's just balmy because it resorts on something that you would not expect to see inside the pyramid itself. The movie itself is bad. Because of these kind of films, the thing that you need, it's very closed in spaces. They even see it. The pyramid is set out like a labyrinth because they believe that when you bury the dead into the middle section of the pyramid itself, you want to make it so hard that they can't find their way out. And so it's labyrinth inside the pyramids, but you never get the sense that it's a labyrinth inside the pyramids because they use very few elements of the pyramid itself. There are very few closed-in spaces, so you don't get the claustrophobic feel of it. Any movie like this should have Neil Marshall involved. You just need to look at The Descent on how to create a movie where small, enclosed-in spaces add tension to it, and that's the kind of blueprint that you need to follow. Don't follow it exactly because Neil Marshall got it down to a T with The Descent, because it's a brilliant film, and even though a lot of people didn't like The Descent too, it still had the elements of the first one. This one is nothing like it. It's even worse than As Above, So Below, because it just doesn't have the balls to do anything new or different. It's not scary, even though a few people actually did jump in the cinema, but it's down to that stupid thing where it goes quiet, 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 bang. So it's that stupid element which I hate in this kind of horror. There is no tension. There is a few little gory scenes here and there, but it's the last 20 minutes of the film where it delves into the realm of being absolutely gaga cuckoo that you just think to yourself, you've lost me. And that's it. I was thinking that it's an average film at best, but once you get to this moment, I'm done. I mean, I just might as well get out of my seat and walk out. I didn't want to do that, but I was very tempted to. I nearly actually fell asleep, to be honest.
Right, so I was chatting to you during this because I still haven't seen yet, but I want to see. Well, I don't necessarily want to, but I'm going to have to see it for the cinema, the DVD release of As Above, So Below, which is a similarly kind of found footage horror film. Yeah. How does this compare?
Better, miles better. Even though I thought As Above, So Below was a big disappointment, it's much better because it involves something that I love Egyptology. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with both things. And As Above, So Below, it's to do with the Philosopher's Stone. I'm not going to rant on about that again. And this is about the Egyptian culture. And I was obsessed with both things as a kid. I much find As Above, So Below a better film than The Pyramid.
Okay. So that's it for this week's cinema section. Stick around after this break. We're back with this week's DVD and Blu Ray home section.
From page to screen.
So they have 9 times out of 10 they have to send it back to you unopened or just throw it in the garbage can.
Things don't always look exactly as we envision our life to look. But sometimes it works out and turns out even better.
Gregor Fisher, his bacon number is 2 because he was appeared with January Jones in Love Actually, and January Jones and Kevin Bacon appeared in X-Men First Class together.
I've got to say, the very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas, now that just makes me want to rush out.
It's about the acting and about the writing. That's really what theatre is. For me.
Probably had more names than Prince or whatever. Never mind, there's a joke for the oldies. It'd be like, who's Prince? Who's he? I'd just like to see Mr. Freeze hiring his bad guys going, right, okay, so you're a psycho, right, can you ice skate? Head over to iTunes, Spreaker and Stitcher and put in the search box From Page to Screen.
Right, welcome back to this week's Monday Movie Show. We're into the home release section of the show. Probably, I would say, a short part of the show this week because over the next couple of weeks you've got the winding down of the big movies, so we're down into the last dribs and drabs of films. So we're looking at these 3 films this week.
Stallone and the rest of the crew are back for the Expendables 3. We have a animated film which it took quite a while to come out here, and now we're getting it in DVD form of The Nut Job. And also, as Stuart said at the start of the show, a very weird film in The Congress.
Yeah, and on top of that, like we've said, you get our TV movies of the week, our movie of the week, but let's kick things off as we normally do with the Blu Ray and DVD top 10.
Yeah, just going to quick mention as well that entering at number 12 this week is Planes 2 Fire and Rescue, so it didn't do that well. I actually, as glad as I am it didn't get in the top 10, I'm surprised it didn't get in the top 10, because they generally seem to do well, but glad it didn't. Instead, though, at number 10 is X-Men Days of Future Past.
Yeah, which gives it a good stead for Apocalypse, which is the next X-Men film come out in 2016, I think it is, isn't it, when that's out? It's not out next year.
It is, yeah. I think they're going to be filming soon. They haven't started filming yet, but they are sort of now got everyone together, I think.
Yeah, so it's a really good film under the guise of Bryan Singer. We were expecting it to be a bit, to be honest, because he's back.
He did the first 2 X-Men films, so...
Yeah, but there were a lot of people who think, oh god, not him coming back to it. But he actually proved people wrong. It's got some really good set pieces in the film itself, even though there are times where it sort of dwindles a little bit and it starts to go back to the Last Stand feel. It never actually reaches that level of awfulness, to be honest.
But that was Brett Ratner, not Bryan
I know,
Singer.
but it never released. It gets to that level of awfulness, because I think if you look at the X-Men: The Last Stand and the spin-off X-Men Origins Wolverine, and that's when the series just died a bad death, and so it was nice for it to actually get back to its ways before we got Days of Future Past, and Days of Future Past is a good film.
Number 9 is How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Which I loved this film. I really did love How to Train Your Dragon 2. Keep an eye out on our award show, which is middle of next week, because this might get mentioned a couple of times, possibly.
Moving up, surprisingly, Mrs. Brown's Boys the Movie at number 8.
This will also get mentioned next week, but not in the good way. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. It's not on the level of badness of things like the Keith Lemon film, because that reaches brand new levels of awfulness. I think the Keith Lemon film probably is one of the worst British movies to be made in the last 10 years. This isn't as bad as that, but it is still pretty dire.
At number 7 is Lee Evans' Monsters Live.
Can't stand them.
It's not a film, so we can't really comment on that. But number 6, Transformers: Age of Extinction.
Pretty bad, to be honest, but what else did you expect? That Michael be a Transformers movie Oscar worthy? Never. I don't even see the series ever going back to its brilliance of the first film, because I really liked the first film. It was one of the first HD DVDs I ever bought, and I rebought it on Blu Ray, and I really liked the first one. The second one is okay. The third one is terrible. This one is just not as bad as the third one, but it is still pretty bad.
Would you believe I actually still have the HD DVD of it? As much as I had the Blu Ray as well, I have the HD DVD
I
of the first
might
one.
have it somewhere.
Number 5 is a new entry for Hercules.
Not as bad as a lot of people thought it would be, because they got the casting right. In this case, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, or Dwayne Johnson dropping the Rock element, because he does pop up every now and again in WWE, but he's just known as The Rock there, Dwayne Johnson acting-wise. And he's the perfect casting for Hercules, and I'm glad that a director thought that it's time to actually give him the chance to do that. It is cheesy, but that was what you expected, because it's not as bad as the Keelan Lutz film. Because the Keelan Lutz film is terrible, beyond magnitudes of terrible. Again, listen out next week, and that might get a mention.
And number 4 is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Which I need to buy on DVD, but it's given me a reason to get myself something along with How to Train Your Dragon 2 for myself for Christmas. Because then I will be buying this film, because I really, really liked it. It shows both sides of the story, but doesn't give a positive side to either one. Doesn't say, oh, this is the one that you need to follow and this is the one that you need to vindicate. It gives you the good side and the bad side of each sides of the stories with the humans and the apes, and brilliantly portrayed by everybody in the film. Not just the apes, which is Andy Serkis and Toby Kebbell, but also on the human side of it is very well handled as well. So at least it's a proper balancing act, and it's a really good film.
Number 3, dropping down from number 1 last week, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Awesome, 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 awesome. That's all it needs, just 4 awesomes.
Okay. Number 2, believe it or not, moving back up the chart, is Frozen.
Yeah, it's getting shown on Sky Movies as part of their Christmas Day premiere. This is their big Christmas Day premiere. I wonder how many people are actually going to buy a Now TV Sky Movies pass just for that day.
I wonder how many people have already got it on DVD and Blu Ray and aren't going to bother now.
I don't have it, surprisingly.
Which means a new entry at number 1 for the In-Betweeners movie 2.
Why did they make the In-Betweeners 2 number 1? Obvious, it's a British film. Obvious, it's the last In-Betweeners movie, because they said they're not going to come back and do a third one, even though they said that with this one. It's bad. The In-Betweeners, the first movie, at least I sniggered slightly at one of the dancing scene, but that was slightly overstretched. This one, I just felt, you've gone too far. And these were the people who directed this were the people who made the TV series. They didn't direct the first film. However, they directed the second film, so they destroyed their own creation.
I still haven't seen it, and I don't really want to.
You don't want to, yeah. Trust me, you just don't want to.
Yeah.
I can't even remember if I put in my top 10 worst films of the year. I don't think I did. It might get a dishonourable mention, whatever. But yeah, it is bad. Right, on to one of our the first of our 3 films this week in the DVD section is The Expendables 3, directed by Patrick Hughes, and it teams up Sylvester Stallone's character, teeth back in, who plays Barney Ross, along with his Expendables crew. Him and his crew have decided they're going to rescue Doc, one of the old members of the crew, from this train after he's been in prison for 8 years. The train has actually taken him to a maximum security prison, and so they decided to do this big, huge, massive rescue mission. And so they rescue him, and then they get given the assignment where they need to actually go to this area, this shipyard, where they have to stop Victor Mins, who's this bad guy who's exporting something in it, and they have to stop that. However, they discover that he's not the person who's involved in it. It's actually Conrad Stone, who's... yes, Conrad Stone. I've got so much stuff actually written down here. Who's played by Mel Gibson in the movie, and they discover that he was an ex-Expendables member who's gone bad, who's gone rogue, and he's the main bad guy behind the shipment deal, and he ends up injuring one of the Expendables crew, which gives Barney Ross a reason to think that maybe it's time to hang up the hat of the Expendables crew, and him actually hunting down for a newer crew to try and track down Gibson's character and stop him once and for all. So he decides to abandon them, reluctantly abandons them, and hunts down for a new crew with the help of Kelsey Grammer's character, and that crew gets kidnapped. And so the old Expendables crew have to team up again to try and rescue the newish crew and stop the bad guy. Here's a clip.
Welcome to the 21st century. I could do that. You want to slip on a dress and give it a shot?
Hey, Marty. You should have killed me where you had the chance. You want the kids? Come get them.
This house until we knock it down. So let yourself go.
Courageous, but insane.
Yeah, that wasn't a clip per se of the film itself. That's just a montage of the kind of thing that you need to expect when watching The Expendables 3. And I don't even think that you needed to hear that montage to guess what you would get in this film. Because if you've seen the first two, you'll have obviously seen the first two if you're going in to see a third film in the series. And it's pretty much the same. It's the same kind of thing that we've seen before. Now, I was a bit nicer to this than you were when we reviewed it in the cinema section when it came out, because I thought it was the best one. I've rewatched it for a second time. It's the only Expendables film that I have seen more than once. And you know what? It's boring. I completely agree with you. I don't like the first two at all. But I can understand that it the kind of audience that it attracts. It attracts the kind of people who were obsessed with these action films of the 80s. And in the 80s, I was more obsessed with horror. So I was more obsessed with the Freddy Krueger characters, the Pinhead characters, rather than the characters in Predator, even though I really like Predator, but the characters that Stallone played or Schwarzenegger played. And so if you're into the 80s action films, the first two films catered towards that. You don't have a clue who this caters to, because it can't cater to those ones, because we've already had two films which has been able to do that. Yet it can't fully cater to the newer action ones, because it doesn't get any of those people in it. So, to be honest, it feels like multiple music videos stitched together to try and make a movie with a few action set pieces to try and appease both fans of the old and new. And it doesn't work on any level, because it's just boring, to be honest. And an action movie with over-the-top set pieces should not be boring. It should be entertaining. You should be smiling, you should be clapping, you should be on your feet, just enjoying what you're watching. You're not when watching Expendables 3. You're just thinking to yourself, just end it. Just please end it, or go into a completely different direction, because it's a series that's overstayed its welcome.
It's also, I think, part of it that, and the thing is, I mean, the DVD version has an extended version. I think it might be the Blu Ray. I'm not sure if the DVD version has it, but it has an extended version, and it's because the whole thing of it was aimed at a PG-13 12A audience, and so they've released extended cut, but it's not really, it doesn't have the soul of the Expendables. It's still dumbed down, cut down, and not what the two films before it were, which I loved for their grittiness and harking back to that. And as much as they were very cheesy, tongue-in-cheek, they knew what they were, that's what you knew you were getting, you're expecting. And then now they've gone and decided, oh wait, we'll bring in new people, and that's not what the Expendables was. It is, they need to bring in, if they're going to bring in new blood, bring in new old blood, bring in actors that are coming up on retirement that were action stars before, but don't necessarily bring in, of all people as well, Ken Lutz, really? Please, just no.
Exactly. You've got more sort of like up and coming action stars, or people who've proven themselves to be action stars, where you could set up a proper Expendables 4 where it is about the next generation of Expendables. But like you said, you use Keelan Lutz as your starting point.
I mean, they had that in the second one, actually, with Liam Hemsworth. And the thing is, I didn't mind that, because they had one character, not a whole brood of them. And do it with one character, fine. Bring in one. I don't care about that. That's fine. You can have the one character would be then the way for having the younger audiences weigh in to show you, how the old timers do it, sort of thing. Don't bring in, just suddenly go, oh well, we'll get rid of the old cast and bring in all new ones. It's literally like doing the whole teen remake thing. Just horrible.
I would have much preferred it if they brought in somebody like Channing Tatum instead of Keelan Lutz. So
yeah, that would have been fine.
At least Channing Tatum would have been a better starting point, and then you could build it from there. You could look at maybe you look at maybe it's the X-Men series and look at the Marvel series and things like that. Look at some of the actors who've been in that, and so maybe it's Chris Hemsworth or start to build on that front.
I just think they should do that for the next Jump Street, 23 Jump Street, the Expendables Jump Street.
Yeah, that I wouldn't be surprised if they do a Mickey take in that.
That'd be great. Okay, on to my only DVD release this week, The Nut Job, which is an animated film directed by Peter Lepenitis. Lepenitis? I don't know. It's an animated film which follows around the character of Surly, voiced by Will Arnett, who is he's a squirrel. There's this whole thing of that there are these animals that all live in a sort of a park in the city. They all sort of live off of this tree, which is a nut tree, and is going to provide them all food for the summer. But during a little incident that happens because of Surly, the tree is basically destroyed and burned, leaving the entire sort of animals of the park to figure out what they're going to do in order to survive the winter and be able to feed themselves. So Surly decides that obviously he's the one responsible for this, so he needs to do is come up with a plan. And what they decide they're going to do is basically break in and raid a nut store so they can get their supplies for the winter. Here's a clip.
I'm not going to feel sorry for you.
Of course, yes, I understand.
Stay! All right, it's safe to come down.
I'm going to level with you because you seem like a reasonable guy. If I don't get rid of you, they are going to send me back to the pound, all right? And I can't go back to that pound.
Oh, yeah, sure, I believe you.
No, I'm a victim of circumstance.
Not my problem, dog. You guys okay? Don't worry about her.
This is incredible. There's enough food here to feed the park for years.
Hey, whoa, what are you doing?
Look, can we be friends?
Oh, great.
Come on. I can do all sorts of stuff. You want to see? You know what? I can fetch things. Huh? I can sit. Oh, look at this thing. This is crazy. Woo, woo, woo. Has a mind of its own. Oh, I can play dead. Watch. Ugh.
So here's the thing with The Nut Job. You've got a cast in there including all these people, with Will Arnett already said, Brendan Fraser, Liam Neeson pops in there, Katherine Heigl, you have Stephen Lang, you have who else was there? I can't remember who else, but I mean there's all these people, and the thing is, it's one of these kind of things where it has its moments that are going to make you giggle a little bit, but nothing in it as much as it could have been that it should have been. It doesn't have any really big laugh out loud moments. It doesn't have anything in it that kind of really, it's like you must see it because of this. It's not even an hour and a half long, so it's not a long film, and even that running time kind of overstays its welcome a little bit because it's not really an exciting animated film. It's not fun. It'll probably entertain kids for its running time, but once they've seen it, they'll never want to see it again. They never need to see it again. And parents sitting watching it with them will be like, yeah, okay, I'm not really into this. What else can I do? You know, why don't we go and watch Frozen again? Because that's generally what will end up happening, or if not, at least the next time, the kids will want to watch Frozen again instead of watching this. It's not brilliant. It's not terrible, but it's such a missed opportunity that it kind of gets marked down because of that. It should have been so much better.
I think it is pretty terrible, to be honest, because it's an animated film where every single one of the characters is trying to get one up on each other constantly. Not like there aren't like little plot points in the film itself where you might see one of them turn against one of them, but it's everybody turning against everybody all the time. It just becomes monotonous. It's not funny at all. The animation is okay. It never reaches any decent heights. To be honest, I think the animation in Planes is better than the animation in The Nut Job. And I think there are times in Planes where the animation looks really nice. This never gets to any of those elements. It's a film that's lacking in anything, to be honest. I can see why it took so long for it to come out over here at the cinema and also on Blu Ray and DVD, because they couldn't find, my guess is, an audience. It didn't do very well at all. I don't see it doing very well on Blu Ray and DVD. I don't see a lot of kids asking for this for Christmas.
Though I think, oddly enough, it's still getting a few sort of rounds in the Saturday morning kids showings at cinema. So I don't know if it's doing well enough to get that or not. I guess it must be getting some showings and get some people going there. But it is a Saturday morning kids TV movie. I wouldn't necessarily say rush out and get it and rent it or anything, because I didn't think it was bad. I was kind of like it kind of like, yeah, pass the time, but not very well.
I wouldn't even say it passed the time. I was bored by the end of it. And animated kids films like this should not make you feel bored.
That's true.
Final film of the night is a very strange one in the form of The Congress. It's directed by Ari Folman, who directed Waltzing with Bashir. Now, if you've seen that movie, he tried to do something different by interleaving animation with live action, but properly overlaying it rather than having a section of the film done in live action and then the rest of the film done in animation, which is how he actually handles this film. It stars Robin Wright, who plays herself, supposedly herself in the film, and she lives with her kids, who's played by Cody Smith-McPhee, and I haven't got her daughter's name down, to be honest, but she lives with her daughter and her son in an old abandoned hangar on an airfield, and so like the son has got this debilitating disease where he's going to lose his eyesight and his hearing, and the daughter is a bit of a smart mouth, and she's an actress. However, it seems to be that the age of actresses has come to an end, and the company in Mirrormount, which is a combination of Miramax and Paramount, have decided to digitize all of their actors/actresses so they can use their likeness for the rest of their lives, for eternity, to be honest, and use them in any age form. So if the actress is 45, they could regress the actress down to 30 and use them in a different kind of film, yet increase their age to maybe 60 and use them in another different kind of film. And that's what they want to do with Robin Wright, and she's really reluctant, not just at first, but she's completely reluctant against the idea. And she gets tried to be persuaded by her agent, who's played by Harvey Keitel. Here's a clip.
The minute the studio pays and scans, the actor isn't an actor. He's just a person, a nobody. And the actor he once was is, from now on, a character in the studio's computer.
The studio can do whatever they want, unless the lawyer puts a clause in saying that they can't. So it's very tricky, very tricky. It's a new field. We're on the cusp.
So what happens to the actor?
What actor?
The one that used to be the actor and is now this computer creature.
He goes off to play golf somewhere.
And what if he doesn't like golf?
And so after some persuasion, she decides to digitize herself. And so she goes through this process of stepping in this huge, massive lit globe, and loads of different emotions from her get put into the computer and changed into the character. Then it fast forwards around about 20 years into the future. She's become a big action star, and the film itself switches to animation, which is invited to this huge, massive conference where they're going to change things again. And they're going to change it into just everything. You can drink her, you can become her. Sorry. And the film itself is very, very strange. It's just really weird, because for the first part of the movie, it plays out like a straightforward drama. It's when it really reaches to the animation thing, it sort of like switches to like a Bedknobs and Broomsticks, but for adults, because there are elements of it which remind you a lot of movies like Cool World, rather than the kind of film that you normally expect. And he doesn't properly handle it well, because I felt the animation side of the film was very nicely done. He has a knack, an eye to sort of like you're probably going to hate me for this, but a Studio Ghibli kind of eye. He doesn't use a lot of computer animation in the film by the looks of it. However, you can tell that it is. But because the tricks that he uses, there's like brush strokes along the scenery and some of the elements of the film itself in the animation side, and the way he goes very trippy, sort of like Yellow Submarine or the Pink Elephants element of Dumbo. It goes very trippy in some of the scenes. It's sort of like colourful and brash and bright, which you would not get something like that in a fully digitized movie. So he handles animation brilliantly. He just doesn't know how to handle the drama side of it, the real-life live-action side of it. And I would have actually preferred the film itself if it was sort of like done like Walton with Bashir, if he took the animation element of it and overlaid it over the top of the live action stuff and just made it fully like that, and it would have made a much more interesting film. Now, I don't know what kind of statement he's trying to make in it, whether he's trying to say that actors, the way they're coming on into the future is going to be like this or what, but he doesn't try to come across with any kind of statement. It just seems to be him going, this is what I can do, I'm going to make a film with these few actors in it, and that's about it. So I wonder if he actually specifically made the movie for himself, just to prove what he can handle. Waltzing with Bashir is a much better film, so I would actually suggest that over this. But it's okay for what it tries to attempt, and at least I'd give him a pat on the back for attempting something different.
I think the problem with it is that there is a big disconnect between the first half of the film where it's live action and the second half of the film where it's animated. That's where, and it's the fact of that the way it goes out there, it completely changes. It is kind of like a really weird animated LSD trip for the last half of the film, and that is where I think either people, depending on how they view it, will find they either get into it more after the first half of the film, or it completely loses them and they have no idea what's going on. So depending on their view, I think it's going to be either one half of the film they're going to love or one half of the film they're going to hate. But I don't think there's going to be many people that will like the whole film, is the problem.
Yeah, I completely agree with it. I prefer the animation side of the film over the drama side.
And that's not saying anything. It's not even saying that the second half of the film, the animated film, is like a bad LSD trip. That's not saying it's a bad part of the film, because it's not. It's very excellently handled. It's just a complete departure from everything before up to that point, and it does make you kind of like do a double take of you go, what? And it takes you a minute to kind of figure out what's going on, and then you're kind of like, okay, so I'm watching this now. It's completely different from everything. I can kind of ignore everything that happened before.
Yeah, because
I think that's a bit of a mistake.
It has a really strange forced love element into it in the animation side of it, which is supposedly gestated in the live action bit, but you never got that. And then when it gets to the animation thing, you think to yourself, well, that was quite rushed. But it's just the way I think Robin Wright needs a lot of plaudits, because the way she handles both sides of it, it's very interesting to see her in different guises, going from the character that she is to being the digitized one, and how she changes, how she's manipulated more so in the animation side when they're able to do that. And I think there was a sort of like messages of drug taking and all that stuff. It's a very weird film.
It is, and her performance though is very, very good. Even though necessarily, I don't know that the film warrants a performance of that level. I don't think her being that good in it actually helps the film, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Right, that's it for the cinema releases, the Blu Ray and DVD section of this week's show. TV movies of the week before we get on to our movie of the week.
I'll go through mine. The two I've got two that are actually a double bill on the same night. On Sunday the 14th of December, starting at 9 o'clock, we have a Robin Williams double bill. It's obviously a shame that he passed away in the last couple months, but starting off at 9 p.m. with Good Will Hunting, which is a fantastic dramatic performance from him. Really, really good film with him, and also Matt Damon in sort of his making performance, as well as Ben Affleck in there too, so it's good all round. And then rounding out the night with classic Robin Williams in good drama but also bizarre comedy in Good Morning Vietnam, 11:25 p.m. all on Film 4.
Yeah, unfortunately my two are on Film 4 as well, so tomorrow night, Compliance, which is on Film 4 on Tuesday the 9th at 11:15. We've made this our TV movie of the week before, but I just wanted to actually repeat the fact that this is a very interesting movie, just because of the fact that it will make you go, what? This actually happened? Because it is based on a true story. When you find out and discover what goes on in the film Compliance, I'm not going to spoil anything at all. It will actually make you think, this actually happened. So I definitely suggest that. The other choice is, I still think, is Elizabeth Olsen's best film. It's Martha Marcy May Marlene. Tongue-twisting thing for a lot of people, but it's very well acted by Elizabeth Olsen. It's one of those cult movies But it's not one of those cult movies that's boring. It's really interesting, and that is down to Elizabeth Olsen. It's very dark, but I highly suggest it. It's very dark, weird double bill, that Compliance and Martha Marcy, Mia Marlene. Right, before we end this week's show, movie of the week.
It's going to be Black Sea for me, but that's because that's a 15. Obviously, if you want something to take the kids, then Penguins and Madagascar.
Nope, Get Santa. Get Santa is easily my movie of the week. I'm surprised by that film. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
right,
I don't think anyone saw that coming from you.
Exactly. That's it for this week's show. We will be back next Monday and next Wednesday, but more of the next Wednesday show on the website. We'll fully announce it on there, but I'll give you a little taste of it at the end of the show. But make sure you do check out the website, mondaymovieshow.co.uk. You just not long posted up the new trailer for the new Terminator movie, Genesis.
Yeah, which I was quite impressed with. I quite like the look of it. I know I've heard very different mixed opinions of it. Some people being quite harsh about it, but
me,
I like the look of it. I think it looks better than the last two Terminator films.
Yeah, but if you saw the trailer for Terminator Salvation, that looked really good, but the film turned out to be really bad.
Again, although Terminator Salvation got a lot of very harsh criticism. I thought it was okay. I actually enjoyed parts of it. Not brilliant, but I enjoyed parts of it.
I didn't like it at all. But you can check trailers and information on the upcoming shows on the website mondaymovieshow.co.uk, along with the box office top 10, which I post every single week diligently. So you can check that out. I'm going to also get us on Facebook.
Regardless of incorrect spelling of some titles.
Yeah, this week it was fine, surprisingly. I actually checked over it because I had a little bit extra time. You can also check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Monday Movie Show, or on Twitter at Monday Movie Show. I'm at Cryptic Tadpole and Andrew's at HDVD. You can get us on YouTube. I think it's under the Monday Movie Show, but I'm not 100% certain. Also, you can download the podcast, or the last year of podcasts, on their Podkicker on Android devices. So if you've got an Android mobile phone or an Android tablet, download the Podkicker app. We'll look into getting properly on iTunes next year, hopefully. If not, at least we've got a good bed there with Podkicker. So you can download the previous episodes on Podkicker, and also leave us a comment on Spreaker, Spreaker.com/Monday Movie Show. Obviously, you know that because you listen to us live on this now, if you are listening to us live. Make sure you also check out a few of our friends, followingnerd.com, from page, 2, screen.com, and theserenfoundation.org.uk. So, we will be back next Monday. It's around about 8 o'clock with a more shorter show because it is not very many films are out next week. But also, like I said, we will be back next Wednesday as well with our end of year show. Slightly earlier this year just because the way Christmas is landing. We decided to have our top 10 films of the year, our bottom 10 films of the year, and a slightly change to the way we handle our awards, a bit differently. But again, keep an eye out on the website for full details on all of that. We're going to play you out with a clip from the big film of the week out on Friday, which is the final part of the Hobbit trilogy and The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. And we will be back, hopefully me with a proper voice, next Monday. So until then, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
My lord, dispatch this force to Ravenhill. The dwarves are about to be overrun. Thorin must be warned.
By all means, warn him. I've spent enough elvish blood in defense of this accursed land. No more.
Sandhill!
I'll go.
Don't be ridiculous. You'll never make it.
Why not?
Because they will see you coming and kill you.
No, they won't. They won't see me.
It's out of the question. I won't allow it.
I'm not asking you to allow it, Gandalf.